Yeah. I know you said you were into sales before this. What was the reason you wanted to go into sales and then starting your own concern consulting?
So that's a good question. Why did I want to transition from sales to this? Well, I've always wanted to like run my own business. That's one thing. I've always wanted to basically run some type of enterprise or like small business myself.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I'm kind of hard to manage. I will like that's one of my weaknesses, I think, is that I am a little difficult to manage. And I feel like a lot of owners kind of share that a little bit. But I think that my issue is that I can get like in the beginning I'm really good. And my problem isn't that like I'm a disruptive employee or anything like that. My problem is that like I am always searching for like the next fix. You know, how do we like improve? Always constant improvement, always constant improvement. And as an employee, you can't really do that. You know what I mean? Like you have like your metrics and you have your thing that you're supposed to like accomplish, but then
Hmm.
after that, the party's over. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I tend to not get satisfied in that, where it's like, I'm always on to the next thing. So it's like after I do that, after I become like the best at whatever position I have, like I tend to want more,
Yeah.
and running my own business kind of gives me that freedom where I can grow, whereas sales kind of limited me in a way, where it was like, because I was doing enterprise sales
Okay.
my last position. I was doing that for like an industrial supply company. I was doing mostly account management and such. But I was running a team and everything, and that was great. That was fun for a while. But
For me, it was more of just controlling my time. If I decide I want to, work this amount of hours, I will. But it took a lot of like thinking through and reverse engineering as to what I wanted my lifestyle to look like. So, I just kind of reverse engineered what it would need to be or how it would need to look like in order for me to get there. So, that's why business has always been something I've always chased.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you chased into business because you didn't like that other people were running your time, or like you
Yeah.
needed more freedom?
Yeah. I just need more freedom, and just make my own decisions, do what I want, and not be constrained by, somebody else's schedule, essentially.
See, that's my problem, is that I hear people say that. I have like the opposite problem where it's like
Yeah.
I I tend to do kind of what I want anyways, and I get away
Yeah.
with it a lot of the time because I'm very good at what I do, you know?
Yeah.
I will
Hmm.
take the time to get obsessive until I'm like, like I'm the best, and like even if I don't meet your metrics, like I will find some type of metric that just makes me like you know what I mean? Like I will
Yeah.
find a way, like I will find a way to like be better in some type of way. And as soon as
Hmm.
I hit that metric, I do get a little bored, I get a little bored with it. But for as far as like my time and everything, I've always been the type that like I take my own time, I take my own pace, but I've always like known that about myself. So I've always been like, no, you have to be like extra good at A, B, and C so that like you can have that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, so it's interesting because like you asked me like what would make me like transition from like doing like sales to like doing something like this. And like I think the transition in my head wasn't that great as far as like the work and the business goes because I try to consult on profitability, like I said. Like that's one of the main things, especially like this year there's a lot of like economic like turmoil and confusion right now. Those type of things have never bothered me in the past because I always see things in like an opposite type of way. Like I'm always
Hmm.
good at reverse engineering. Like I'm always good at like breaking things down from the opposite because I usually see it from that way anyways, So like things that typically make people panic don't typically make me panic, if that makes sense. Like for example, like during COVID, right? I got a promotion when I had a job during that time. Like I
Hmm.
saw that as an opportunity to like get myself promoted. Whereas like other people were just like trying to keep their job.
Yeah.
Like that's how like my brain kind of works. Is like I have like an opposite reaction to like events that are happening around me. And like
Yeah.
those things have always created opportunities for myself. And it's always created like an advantage for myself, you know? So it's like, I feel like I've gone on a tangent.
It's all right.
But no, like I feel like, like sometimes when I get asked questions, it's hard to like answer because like I feel like there's like I know there's no wrong answers, but I always feel like there's an expected answer that I'm never really
Mm,
able to get because
yeah.
like I just don't think of like the issue that way. I remember a long time ago. This is something that happens all the time, but it was just something that that day it struck a chord and made me think. Was like I was in an interview and somebody asked me like, how do I see challenges? Like how do you deal with some challenges that come up, with A, B, or C or whatever. And I had a real hard time answering that question. And it wasn't until like because I was doing my interview prep before I got to that interview and everything. And I couldn't answer it in my preparation until I actually got into the interview. And like they asked, like, how do you see like yourself like handling difficult challenges? And I just told them it doesn't matter to me. Like
Yeah.
I told them like it doesn't matter. Like I said, like it's work. Hey baby.
Hmm.
I said it's
Yeah.
just work. Like this is just, the nature of work for me. So like for me, like if something wrong happens, it just my brain goes into like what are the things that we need to do to unlock this puzzle, not
Yeah.
necessarily like, oh my God, this thing happened. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah.
like, yeah, like certain questions, like, certain
Mm,
questions from like a positive spin are difficult for me sometimes. Okay.
got it. Okay. I guess this kind of goes in with the next question I was going to ask. So I wonder
Okay.
how you're going to answer this one. What is a challenge you currently face in the business?
In my business?
Yeah. Maybe is it
Well,
delivery?
I'll tell you this. One of the challenges I've always faced, because like I did transition from sales, right? And
Hmm.
I love sales because I love you get to interact with people. I
Yeah.
love the I like wheeling and dealing. I love bargaining. I love the whole negotiation aspect of doing sales. One thing I've always been bad at, no matter where I've worked or what I've done, is operations. I hate operations. And in some ways, that's an advantage for me. Not to get too LinkedIn about it, but like it's an advantage
Yeah.
for me because I think that right now, especially where everybody wants to be like a coach or a consultant or everything, people are very like dialed into like this build a business type of market where they want to like do your operations for you, you know? So like I noticed that there's a lot of business coaches or a lot of like consultants, like I said, that they talk about process a lot, like doing like certain processes and things like that.
Yeah.
Whereas sales is so much more intangible, or at least that's what people tell me. Like sales is so
Hmm.
much more intangible, where it's more relationship oriented and things like that. And I feel like when it comes to business, people kind of look at sales as two different things. They either look at sales as like this magical thing that like just kind of happens, or they look at sales as this thing that again, kind of a magical thing, but like more like, this thing that's for other people. It's not really for me. And
Okay.
part of like what I like to do is like I try to like demystify that whole maybe I can't make you a better salesperson, which I do code for that, but like maybe I can't make you a better salesperson, but if I can get you to understand sales better, like that's
Yeah.
something that I try to do. Whereas on the other end, more like operations and stuff has never been my forte. And I think it's because it's so stable. Like I think it's because it's so like cut and dry. And I think when I say like I'm bad at operations, it's more like I get so like bored in my brain with the monotony of it. And so like one of the things in my business has been learning focus, I think, for that type of thing. Cause like sales is like it's like, every day it's like just every day could be something new. Every day,
Yeah.
quick, it's like you could have like a billion different types of conversations. Whereas like operations is like the same conversation or the same process over and over and over, which is why I don't really necessarily understand. I understand from my perspective why I don't like operations. I don't always understand how other people kind of need that. I did talk to one person a couple of months ago where like they were basically telling me that they wanted somebody, they said they wanted a business coach that would just basically build the business for them. Like that was the
Yeah.
conversation that we were having. Like that, in so many words, that's what I got out of the conversation, was that they basically wanted somebody who was going to do all the business processes for them, which in my head is like, well, what do you do at the end of the day?
Yeah.
This business coach, and they build like every like tangible part of your business. Which
Hmm.
part are you doing now? And it's like, I guess the collecting of the check part.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that are like that. Yeah, I've
Right.
noticed with the more people I speak to. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's very common. It's very very common. They just
I
want to run like a well-oiled machine, but
right.
that's very rare to have a well-oiled machine. You have to have very good systems and processes in place, which is possible, but
But yeah,
they
my
have to be
thing
involved.
that yeah, my thing is like, even if I gave you a well-oiled machine, right, what would you do with it?
Hmm.
You don't really know any of the parts. You don't really know how this works. I get that, like, if you had more experience, and you're like, please build this out for me. I have a vision. Okay, I guess. Like if you're a trained conductor and you just need to train, cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But I feel that like a lot of business owners are like cutting themselves short by like skipping over certain things about business, where it's like, my thing is like, if you don't know something, that's okay. If you keep not knowing it and you just never ask, that's
yeah.
terrible. You know what I mean?
Another point, because I actually had a conversation with somebody yesterday. He's in the pest control industry. He works 1 hour a week on his business because he has it so
Okay.
well put, right?
Right.
But he did that.
Yeah.
So, his people respect him for that. So
Mm.
I think, somebody just trying to have somebody implement a well-oiled machine, you kind of already missed out on that culture now,
Yeah.
on your team respecting you.
Right.
It's because you're not there to help them, to lead the way. You're just, you
Yeah.
know,
Because I guess my question would be about that is like, so he has this thing running, right? Is that something where he's like, is he trying to scale it?
and he's at a place where he's scaled it big enough to where he's just happy where he's at.
So he doesn't really want to do anything else with it.
No, he's good where he's at. Yeah, he is actually focusing on other projects now. So yeah,
I just get that. I guess I get
yeah,
that for a second.
yeah,
I get wanting to have a business that you have ownership over, but not necessarily involvement in, where you want like
mm,
somebody else to manage it for you. Like I get that. Like people do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. I do kind of wonder though, sometimes I wonder why certain people wish to scale certain things that they don't wish to be a part of, Like I guess for me, how do I put this so I don't sound weird?
I mean, for context, the business
Yeah.
was put on him. This
Okay.
wasn't his plan.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, and yeah, he was. He was one that just reverse engineered what life he wanted, and then he just backtracked from there. But he's a very impressive human being.
Okay.
His process is so down, to the nitty gritty, so
Mm.
that he doesn't even have to be bothered.
Well, that type of service business too. That's
Mhm.
that's pretty good too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And so it just everybody wants different things out of their business. That's what it comes down to. Even if they just want to pay for a well-oiled machine.
I
But
do.
yeah,
I'm very critical about businesses because I
yeah,
think about business like all day. Like I think very much into like, where are the holes that need to be plugged. So I
yeah,
tend to come off more critical about certain things, but it's really, I've never been critical in a way that's like destructive. I'm always looking for like, what is the constructive opportunity? If you have like a hole in your business, I do tend to like zero in on like certain weaknesses or things like that, like things that just could be improved upon. It doesn't even have to be like a total weakness. It could just be like
Yeah.
areas of improvement, you know. And so that's also why I started my businesses because like I was saying before, like because of like how the economy was going down and I saw like how many people were losing their businesses or like they were just having trouble maintaining a business. There are things that I feel like after a while, if you're in the monotony of doing your business over and over and over again, you kind of get caught up into that loop where you're just like you are comfortable, this is your
Hmm.
business. But then what happens is like an economic storm like what we have today happens where like a recession hits or you have a president that just hikes up the prices on all of your products. What do you
Yeah.
do in these instances? And the way I think about things, like the way I kind of reverse engineer things is that like I tend not to like think of things in like, a spilled milk type of way where it's like, oh my God, woe is like I'm very good at like keying in on like specific things that like are opportunities and like things that like people could like do to like shift over and like find what their advantage is. So that's why I can get a little critical about like certain things because like I'm even tough on myself about certain things that I think I could improve and things like things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's just, it's like a critical mindset,
Mhm. Yeah.
where you're a problem solver at the end of the day. That's just the way
Yeah.
it works. Yeah. And yeah, no, no. But that's like the right formula for trying to, build a business because at the end of the day, that's what a business owner does, just solves problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
One way or another. With that being said, what is one thing in particular, if is there anything that a pattern you see that happens often? Because I know your focus is on profitability, right? Is there one thing they tend to overspend on?
I wouldn't say that. I would say that I think this doesn't just go for people I talk to, but I feel like this also just goes for in general.
Yeah,
And one of the big reasons I focus on profitability is that like so many businesses don't focus on profitability. So many businesses are focused on just getting money in the door, but not necessarily how much money that is, or
yeah,
what that money is, how that money even impacts their business. And I feel like, especially for like early founders and early owners, there's not a big emphasis on that because they are just trying to build their business. They are just trying to like make money and like it becomes an afterthought. But for me, it's so offensive because not just because like this is what I've put my business around, but like it just like the idea that you would make a business but it wouldn't be profitable is like without that in the upfront mindset of
yeah. The
what
forefront.
you're
Yeah,
trying to do. I think there's a fear there. I think there's a fear there that if I price a certain thing a certain way, somebody's not going to buy it. And
yeah,
that's a valid fear. But I think that that's a valid fear. But I also think that you have to question then what is the value of your product and what is the value of your service then? Feel like if you're telling yourself in the beginning that you're not going to be able to make any money from this thing, then you have to question yourself telling yourself that. You have to question where that's coming from. If I sell like, I don't know, if I sell widgets and like I can't and I feel like, oh well, I just won't be able to get these out the door at the price that I want them at, then the problem you need to solve is not lowering that price. The problem you need to solve is why can't you sell it at the price that you need to be selling it at? You know,
yeah,
what is it about your business that essentially is preventing you from doing that thing? And that's something that I have these conversations and I'm trying to like, and I do, like you say, what are these conversations that you continually have? And that is something that like comes up a lot is that, it's like, well, we slashed this price and we're doing this and we're doing that. And it's like, okay, but why did you need to cut the price on this? Why did you not like push harder on this? Why are you making a loss on this item? Those type of conversations I like to have, because when I was doing like industrial sales and stuff like that, I was always pushing profit. I we the way my last sales job was set up was like I had control over the profitability of items and stuff like that. So I got really good at like negotiating on both ends for like the cost end and the
Mm,
actual upfront with the customer. So that was it wasn't necessarily a big learning. It was just that something that I was like always minded for, but then like I gained more experience and more like experience and use doing, because like I've always been more minded in like, how do I like stack the sale? Like how do I get more out of
mm,
this one particular thing? How do I get more out of this one particular sale? So like I'm already coming from that world and that mindset. So like when I hear like a business be like, and they can't get if it's one thing if you make a loss on a product, right? And you're bundling it with other things that are like uber like profit heavy. You know what I mean? Like stores, they take losses on computers all the time. So they sell you other packages like across, like on top of it. They sell you the mouse, the headphones. They sell all these other things that the computer is like sold at a loss, but like the headphones is like sold at like 70% margin. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And they make up the difference on that way. But if you're running a business and you're selling a couple of items and like your product that you're hand making, is selling at like, just above profitability, you have to question why it is you're doing that,
yeah,
and a lot of that comes from, people being like, just being afraid that they themselves aren't going to get that back from the customer. But then we just have to make that more valuable to the customer. Like I think for me, when it comes to problem solving, the one thing I do notice is that people never solve the problem at the problem. They solve the problem at the pain of the problem. You know what I mean?
they don't solve the root of the problem.
Right,
They solve the
exactly.
symptoms.
All the symptoms. Yeah. So it's like
Yeah.
if I'm not making money on the sale, then the problem is I'm not making money on the sale, not why I'm not making money on the sale.
A lot of people don't realize that most of your problems can go away if you just price right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there is a lot of talk and a lot of like talk about like the different types of pricing methods and like value-based
Hmm.
pricing became like really like popular in the last couple of years. But I think that even like there's some things you can't value price. You know what I mean? Like if you're a mom and pop if you're a mom and pop burger shop and you're just selling regular burgers, you probably can't value price that,
Yeah.
unless they're like some really good burgers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they gotta, you know what I mean?
Some
Like
high-end burgers.
or something like like they got to be some like real things, if you're like if you have a service and it's a good service, and you're just underpricing it just because you don't think the customer is going to take it, then you should be raising your price, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
you're running into issues where you've raised the price and then the customer doesn't take it, then you need to look at what is the value of the offer then, don't just skip straight to, "Oh, well, we need to cut playing like, hopscotch with your prices. It's wasting time and it's wasting a lot of money too.
Yeah. What does your ideal customer look like? What businesses do you usually target?
I haven't like picked a specific industry. I have more of a revenue target that I
Okay.
don't really share too much. I go from there's a range of customer that's making a certain type of revenue that I kind of target.
Got it. Okay. And how do you plan on, I guess first let me ask, what are your goals? You don't have to give a revenue number, but what are your goals with this in the next year?
It wouldn't be a revenue number actually. I think that's probably because I'm in strategy. Because because I think more in terms of what I want the business to be, not how much I want it to make. And I do want it kind of to be bigger than it is now. But when I think of like my goals, I think about, this is a thought business, like it's that type of business. It's not every business is a money and revenue type business, but what I'm saying is that like this is more like, what is your insight oriented to? And that was one of the big things that I was writing down as my own like aspirations was that like when you think of like a company like Nike, right? Their aspiration is that they're going to be the best company for athletes. Like, like they're just like they like that's so broad, like that umbrella. And so like my aspirations is always like above board like that. Like I want to be giving the best insights. I want people to come to my company for those insights, like what to do.
Yeah.
Like I want when you think about having a problem that you come to me, Like I'm the person that you think of that like, okay, this person can solve our problem, you know.
What do you think it'll take to get there?
Some elbow grease. I think what it will take to get there, I'm not quite sure. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not quite sure. And I think that's part of the fun of it is trying to figure that out. Is
Yeah.
figuring out how do you get to be that type of usefulness for your clients? Like how do you get to that?
Yeah. Do you think maybe just more people on your team to help you out, more leads, more customers, paying customers.
That doesn't hurt.
You don't want free customers.
Yeah, no, I don't even like
Mhm.
no, I think those things will come. You know what I mean? I think those things will come. And I think the way I think about business is like those things are like the baseline of your business. You know,
Yep.
like those things are the things that, you know, when you're thinking about an aspiration, when you're thinking about like, you know, becoming the best at whatever it is you're trying to do or whatever it is you want to do, you have to think about you have to think about it in terms of more than just, you know, who are the people behind it and things like that. I mean like the individual positions and such. Not who gets hired, but like, you know, what do you have? I had the thing I wanted to say again. It was right because of this.
Mhm. So that actually happens to me so often.
Oh
So
my
often.
God.
It happens to me so often.
No, like I think I was trying. Give me 1 second. Give me like five
No
seconds
worries.
to like collect my thoughts about what it was I was just trying because it was an important point. You said what would it take to get there? And I was thinking usually I don't know. I do know that you can't like set your sights too low. I know
Yeah.
that. And I think that people don't necessarily always understand that.
Mhm.
They do hop to revenue. They do hop to, well, I want to make this much money. I want to make that. And it's like, okay, like, you know, but then what after, you know, like you have to form some type of identity beyond your revenue. I do believe that. I believe that you have to become more than just what you take in. What you take in is vital and it's important. But I think as far as aspirations go, you have to do a lot more.
How do you help clients see what's possible through your service?
That's a good question because that's something that is in our tagline, you know, like let us help you see what's possible.
Really?
Yeah, it is.
Nice.
Let us show you what's possible. That's what we say. I think for me, you have to widen what that perspective is about possibility.
Mhm.
And it's such a personal thing, possibility.
Okay.
I was thinking about this the other day and I wrote it down because I make sure that I write and I journal like almost every day. That's something that I like. I'm always, and I journal out of my phone. Like I have a pen for my phone and I'm always writing. But that was something that I was thinking about the other day was that like, you know, because you know, as a business owner, you think that only so many things are possible. You think that you can only do certain things. And I was walking down the street, I was going to the store, and I was thinking to myself, I said, you know, you tend to, because like I said, I'm very like coded into like what I'm best at, you know, and that can be like a strength and a weakness for me. Because like I get very niche down into like what it is, what I'm good at, you know what I mean? And I'm
Okay.
very like averse to what I'm not good at, you know? And so when you're talking about possibility, I was thinking to myself, and I later wrote it down, and I was like, you know, you think that something's not possible. So sometimes what we tend to do is when we don't think something is possible, we try to like kind of discount it in our minds to the next best thing. And it's like if you said you wanted strawberry ice cream that day,
Mhm.
right? And you're like, before you even get to the store, you say, I don't think they're gonna have it. I'll just get vanilla. And it's like you get to the store and maybe you didn't see it and it was right there, but because you weren't looking for it anymore, you're looking for the vanilla. So you buy vanilla, you know.
Yeah.
You wanted strawberry the whole time. And I feel like we do that to ourselves a lot, where it's like we want a certain thing, right? But we don't get the thing that we want because we don't think that that thing is possible. So we try to like in our head think of what is attainable, what is the next best thing. And something I try to do for clients is try to like enlarge in that scope of like, no, you don't necessarily have a bad plan. You could have what you want. This is just what we would have to do that. This is
Yeah.
what you have to do to get that. And I've always been very good at like outside of my own personal life, I've always been good at like pushing people towards that, which is that like people will say that this is what they want. And I'll be like, okay, let's go get it. Like I like there's like if you don't tell me you want something because I'm very much like the type of friend that's like gonna tell you, okay, well, why don't we go do that? Or I'll call you up a week later, be like, hey, what happened
Yeah.
to that thing that you said you wanted to go do? And then be like, oh, well, no, I'll be like, no, 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 no. Be like, no, you said you wanted to go to the carnival and like let's go to the carnival. Like
Yeah.
very much let's get us there, And
Yeah.
I think that that's literally the issue with a lot of people is that it's not that they don't think the thing is possible. They don't think it's possible for them. And so when you started off that way, that like this thing is not possible for you because like and this is what was remarkable about that idea for me. This is what actually made it remarkable was that the thing that you said that you could get, you made that possible. So like you said that you couldn't get the strawberry, so you wanted to get vanilla, but then you got vanilla. So what if you applied that same energy to the strawberry? You would have had strawberry that day. And like that was big for me. I don't know if it was big for anybody else, but it was just big for me because like I tend to pick the path of least resistance a lot. I tend to pick the thing that gets me closer to the win a lot.
Mhm.
But that also, because I do that, it also sometimes I'll pick like the lesser thing when I could have just picked
Yeah.
the first thing, you know? And so like sometimes it is just like reframing that for somebody that like, okay, well, why do you think that this thing that you said was this great goal that like you said would be this life-changing thing? Why do you think
Yeah.
all of a sudden not possible anymore? You know?
It's so crazy to me because a lot of the time it's just that framework shift that's needed.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
that's
for real.
like almost like most people have the answers they need or they're looking for.
Yes,
It's just
exactly.
they just need somebody to put it in perspective for them.
Right, exactly
So
that.
or just for have them help them believe in themselves.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that. I think that we are like, I think that we constantly try to like do everything ourselves. And
Hmm.
there is like a culture of like hyper independence. In some ways that can be anti-business, In some ways that type of like wanting to do everything yourself. And I've seen
Hmm.
people do that in their own workplaces as managers. And it's just like, you have five guys here and you don't want to use any of them to do this. And it's like, well, I don't trust them. And it's like, well, when are you going to start? Or if you don't trust them, why are they here? Like,
Yeah.
like they're just collecting a check and you're doing all the work. Why you didn't need these five? What are they here for the warmth in the room? Like,
Keep it company.
yeah, company. If you like, we could just not do that. And like, I do feel like, business is supposed to be like collaborative. It's supposed to be
Yes.
communal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to work with other people. Like the whole nature of like doing commerce in the first place is an exchange with another person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have to be in contact with another person to even make that exchange. I give you something for you to give me something, you know?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's like you don't do that by yourself, or else we wouldn't do anything, I do think that like, we do kind of need each other. Like even if you need somebody to like, there was a friend I had that had like a lawn care business, right? And when this is very early on when I wanted to start this business, and he said, "Well, what are you gonna do? What is consulting? What are you gonna like, what does that mean? Like, how are you gonna like do that?" And like I was trying to like explain it then. I was like very much a baby of explaining what it was I was trying to do,
Yeah.
you know. But then like he said that like he had tried to run a business before and didn't work out. And like he had given me this whole list of why the things didn't work out. And he was like, "So how would you help me?" And I didn't know he was like testing me at the time about, like to tell him like to consult or anything.
Yeah.
And then so like he asked me like how would I help him? And so I said, "Oh, you're testing." And he's like, "Yeah, like do it." I said, "Okay, cool." I said, because what he had told me was that like he was doing this lawn care thing and
Yeah.
he got a truck and he got the tools and everything and he would go door to door just to start out. And he would get like the people to like actually like be like, okay, cool, we'll use you. Like they agreed to this price and everything. And by the time he gets out there, what would happen is somebody cut the lawn already. Somebody
Mhm.
the hedges, cut the lawn and everything. And then he would go to the homeowner and say like, what happened? I thought, you wanted me to come do it. And they said, oh, well, somebody would come by and they gave a better price, right? And so he said, well, how would you fix that? Like, what would you do with that, Logan? It's like, and so I said to him, I said, okay, these other guys, did they have, so I guess they had a truck too, like you did. And he goes, yeah. I said, did they have like any logos or anything on the truck? Or they was just like you just like, they didn't have any logos on the truck. And he was like, no, I didn't really have anything on the truck. And they didn't either. It was just like guys that would come around. I was like, okay, first thing, I don't know why I'm going through this, but I said like first thing, I would probably get like a logo, right? The first thing I would do is get a logo, slap it on your truck, make yourself look legit, right? Second thing is I would try to like I wouldn't cut your price, but like for what you would do for one lawn, say you'll do it the whole month at that price, right? And go door to door and tell everybody that until you have the whole neighborhood, right? And he was like, shit. He was like, oh, excuse me, I don't know if I'm supposed to cuss on your thing.
It's okay.
He was like, that's a good idea. And it's like,
Yeah.
it goes back to your point. The reason why I brought that up is because it goes back to your point where you're like, sometimes we have a thing where we're trying to do a thing. We don't know in that moment just because we're not thinking about that. Our brain isn't there. Our brain is set to all the things that we think we need to like get taken care of. Like he was trying to get a truck, he was trying to get customers, he was trying to get like, the right tools and stuff to do hedges and lawns and everything like that. But he wasn't thinking about like, what his competition would be. And so like because of that, that was what caused us failing. But like because he also didn't ask anybody anything else because it seemed like a pretty like cut and dry thing. It's like, well, get him
Yeah.
priced out. Like, like
Yeah.
like who else are you gonna ask? But then that's the problem. If you're always trying to do something yourself and you're never asking anybody, you're always
Yeah.
you know, you're always going to have an issue. You're always going to have a problem. You're never
Yeah.
going to actually like, there's so many things that I ask other people for. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't do anything by myself. Like yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard this many times from people that, buddies of mine that own agencies. They tell me all the time, they're like, even consultants need consultants.
Yeah. Yes.
There's
Yes.
so many aspects of business
Yeah.
that for one person to attack all 20 avenues is
It's
you would think
insane.
you're superhuman if you
Yeah.
think you could do all of it
The
yourself.
only way you could do that is if you incorporate other people. If you wanted to be that type of agency that did that, you would have to hire in some, like if I wanted to have an agency that focused on like, operations and operational support and things like that, I would have to hire in somebody for that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then that could like expand the scope of my business, but I'd still have
Mhm.
another person there and they're doing
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean? It's not,
Yeah.
everything can't be you by yourself. And I feel like a lot of people get in over their head that way. Where like they're like, I have all these things I want to do, but then you don't have really the people to do it. Okay, cool. You don't really have
Hmm.
the manpower, you don't have the brain power to do it. And it's like you have like three good things that you could be doing, and you don't want to chop off the other two out of that five, And it's like, no, because I'm trying to diversify. And it's like, diversify what? You can't divide zero. So it's like, what are we talking about? Like just
Yeah.
do the things you're good at, expand that by adding other people in, and then you
Yeah.
kind of have like something going.
Yeah. Hey, Logan, can you give me 1 minute? I'm gonna go take a leak very quickly, all right?
Sure, yeah.
I'll be right back. Hey, I'm gonna challenge you to ask me one challenging question when I come
Ask
back, all
you a
right?
challenging question.
Yeah, just one. All right.
Oh, hello.
Oh, thank you for that. Sorry, it's been on calls all day.
No,
Sometimes
you're
just gotta,
fine.
yeah.
No, I get it. I get it. I get it.
Oh, so very quick, I just wanted to add to that what you said earlier,
Yeah.
uh, with the framework and collaboration and all that. That's essentially how I do my business. I never look at it as like I'm selling somebody something. I don't
Right.
see them as clients. Yeah, I call them clients to, when I tell other people, 'cause,
Yeah, you gotta have something.
you got to
Yeah.
describe it one way
Yeah.
that's easier for them to grasp on. But I always, tell the people I'm working with that they're partners.
Okay.
because we're
I
helping
like
each
that too.
other.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're helping each other get to our goals, and that framework is a game changer. Believe it or not, just that simple framework. Because the reality is, I'm helping you get to your goal while you help me get to my goal.
Right.
We both have goals that we're trying to achieve, and we're
Right.
both, trying to climb this ladder. So that's one thing I do. That's why I'm a little different to most agencies, because most of my things are performance based. That's
Mm.
how I want to make sure that they know I have skin in the game,
Okay.
because there's a lot of agencies that leave a bad rep for this world, for this industry, because they just sell you something right off the get, their setup fee, your retainer, but then they forget about you.
Yeah.
They don't care about delivering results. They just care about getting your monthly retainers, which what's more important to me is not having people churn over. I'd rather have five well-established relationships and keep them going than having to find five every week.
No, yeah.
So yeah, that shift in framing has definitely helped, and that's what yeah, a lot of my fellow agency owners do as well.
That's good. No, I like that. I like that framing of it because that's also what because I'm very relationship oriented as well. So
Yeah.
I don't say I don't like to burn bridges, but I don't like to burn bridges with clients, especially like good clients. I feel like there are clients that sometimes you gotta let go, and but that's not necessarily because of the relationship, but just maybe the client is taking too much of your time up. They don't really understand what you're doing for them. They're like bought in, but they're not bought in. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And that can
Yeah.
like that slows you down. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because you're trying to babysit something and trying to like constantly educate somebody who's not really bought in, you know? But I do feel that like, relationships are like super important in that like you can't just like you said, you can't just like set it and forget it. Like
Yeah.
otherwise what is the point? Like at that point, like, why are we even doing this? Like, like I guess I'm collecting a check, but then like for what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I get what you're saying there. And I like that. I respect that a lot.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now, were you able to come up with a question for me?
I feel like the big topic is
Yeah.
the economy. So I don't, if I took out my crystal ball, I don't see it
Yeah.
getting any better in like the next 6 months or anything.
Yeah.
So I feel like with that in mind, what is your outlook for your business? Is this like a plus? Is this a minus? Is this something that you like? How do you think about it? Like, how do you think about things that are going on right now and like how that's going to affect like your business overall?
I look at it in a positive aspect. I reframe it because, there's reality, and then there's you know, the perspective you have on it, or the perception you want to have.
Yeah.
So the way I look at it is, it's a good thing, because that allows you to acquire people that really need help, and not that you're acquiring people that really need help and are trying to stand out and really, beat this situation at hand,
Yeah.
and you're able to prove that you can help and you actually do help. I feel like that's a plus plus now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of, it's easy to grow a business in a good economy.
Yes. Yes.
It's much challenging to grow a business in a rough economy, when there's
Right.
a speed bump in the way.
Yes.
So if you're able to do that, the satisfaction must be two times better. So I do view it in a positive aspect. And yeah, when people approach you, like, and they need consulting, or they need, you to help them grow their business, scale, whatnot, and they're coming at you in these times, it's because they believe in you and you believe in them. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't even try to help them. You wouldn't take them on, and they wouldn't take you on. So that's the way I try to view it on. There's an advantage, and I think in every economy, in
Mm.
all the ups and all the downs. There's
Yeah.
people that got wealthy too in the bad economies.
Yeah.
It's just the framework that you
We're
put it
doing it
in.
now.
Yeah,
Good. Yeah.
yeah, and it's just how creative can you get? That's what it comes down to.
Yes. Yeah.
That's because, of course, there's gonna be challenges, with people not wanting to buy, but we're also in a new era, and this goes back to like the AI age. Like, even with ads, right? You can
Mhm.
target somebody so specifically
Mm.
that ads are almost like a no-brainer nowadays. That's why there's so much ads. You got small guys throwing ads out there because they will get their $3 per dollar.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
and this is just technology nowadays. So I it's a good thing because now you'll see how creative us humans will get with the technology we have at hands in that time that we're in. So people are already getting creative. Like there's so much guerrilla marketing tactics that are still being used to this day, and it's they're
Yeah,
just taking advantage of it. That we
yeah,
have social media. So and there's so many avenues of marketing that if one doesn't work, you have 15 others options.
right.
So it's just a matter of how creative can you get and how to take advantage of the tools and the technology we have nowadays. So I am bullish with business is still growing in this market.
So you're bullish while everybody's bearish, is what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, still bullish. I have to. You have to
Yeah.
be.
I think as if you're doing consulting, you have to be bullish in bearish times, though. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the whole point, isn't it? Is like you're trying to problem solve, and if everybody's having a problem, you should be pretty
yeah,
bullish, you know? Like,
exactly.
it'd be a big problem if you're like, oh man, this economy.
They need you now more than ever. So
Yeah,
that's what.
I agree. I'm also bullish about it because I do see like that same type of opportunity, but that's also what I'm trying to get other people to see as well. You know,
Mhm.
I can't help everybody, like you know what I mean? Like we all have our limited resources, but I can't help everybody. But for the people that I do help, that's what I try to like. This is Apollo. He likes to make a lot of noise during podcast interviews. I think that I was so glad that you said that, it really matters like how a business does more in bad times than in good times. That's something I have on my website. That's something that I put there is that like we measure the strength of a business by how well it does in basically rough seas, rough waters. It's like if like you're in the middle of a hurricane, you don't want to be like on like a little dingy boat, you know what I mean? You're going to get
Yeah.
crushed. So it's like I also agree with that idea that like, and for some people it is a little too late, unfortunately. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But I also feel like, if you can get through this hard time, right? It says a lot about your business at the end of the day. But I think the lesson that people should really take from it is that, especially when we're talking about the future and like going to that next era of wherever we end up. But I think what people should take away from it is not that, they should just ride out the storm. Like you have to kind of be more creative, like you said. You have to like kind of stay on your feet, like keep fighting, keep thinking, keep moving. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
If you're just running a business just to run a business, that's fine. And if it works economically through all periods of time for you, cool, don't change anything. But if you're in a
Yeah.
time where you're like, okay, I'm really getting smacked around here, then keep moving, like figure out, like get a consultant, get somebody like me or you to like actually help you with your business, like so that you can like survive and then not just survive but thrive. That's my main thing is that I don't want just somebody to like survive like down periods. I want somebody to like have a new identity when they come out of it. I want somebody to have a new identity while they're going through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I want you to be your business to be thought differently. That's not how things work. There's a baseline of things that we have to be like moving above, and that baseline doesn't stay in one place. It moves. So it's like things are always in flux. Things are always changing. And if you're always looking at the short term, you're going to get left behind. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's yeah, that I also try to bring that to people's attention that like, yeah, things look bad right now. What can we do to make them better? Right? Strengthen your business and then see you on that other side as a completely new business for the next downturn. Because like that's my thing. My thinking is not that things will be good later. It's when will they be bad again, you know? Nobody thinks like a company like Apple is gonna fail because of this. They don't think Nike's gonna fail because of this. You know what I mean? Like they might think the mom and pop on the street is gonna fail, but they're not thinking of like these major companies that have positioned themselves time and again a certain way. Like these companies, I think people like they think, okay, this is a $1 billion company though, Logan. Like this is a company with all the money in the world. And it's like companies with $1 billion go out of business every day. Like, it doesn't that's why I think when you asked me the revenue question earlier, that's why I'm not so keen on it because if you make revenue your goal, like your overall goal, it's good to have it as a short-term goal, but as a long-term goal, I think that's always going to make you fall short because you're always going to be looking in the short term. How do you stack that from month to month or from quarter to quarter? You're always going to look at how you stack instead of what your business is supposed to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What
The
is your business?
culture.
Yeah, exactly. What does your business tell other people that it is during these times? Like during
Yeah.
the good times, during the bad times. Like I know what, I know what Apple is trying to be right now. I don't need to like do a lot of brain work for that. Like that's what people should. I know I was critical of branding earlier, and branding goes into it, but it's like what your overall strategy is about your business matters so much more overall about like, where you're going to end up versus, well, I just have like A, B, and C type like thing that I need to get done, like these three tasks that I need to get done. The task you probably should get done, but like overall, what is it you're actually trying to do with your business? And that's going to determine the fate of your business after times like these.
Is there any marketing strategies you plan on implementing in the next few weeks or months, maybe?
Hmm. It's funny you say that because I backed off of digital recently, like doing a
Hmm.
lot of like digital stuff
How how come?
because I'm not good at it.
Okay.
And so like when I look at something like that, it's not a question of, well, why don't you just try or get better at it or something like that. I look at it as I don't want to hurt my own brand by doing,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like that's how I
Yeah.
looked at it, is that it's not so much that I was terrible. Like I make the joke, but it's not so much that I was terrible at it because I wasn't. But even when I look at the way other people talk about business online or like even when they're trying to do like like social media marketing or anything like that, there's a big difference between like the people who are winning through that and the people who aren't necessarily winning through that. And
Hmm.
I noticed that like even with like the LinkedIn post or like somebody who posts on Threads or Twitter or whatever, like as like the face and brand and like everybody's a thought leader now and everything, it's like a lot of those things don't get a lot of motion, you know so it's like very hard to to like invest your energy into something like that and then say, yes, that's where I got my next customer from. It's not that it's not possible. It's not that it's not something that happens, but it wasn't something that I felt like I wanted to keep
Oh,
doing without like a dedicated social media person. So I think in the future, that would be something I would probably be interested in doing, is like hiring on somebody to do like that type of marketing and stuff. Because as far as that type of marketing, I don't see it right now. And then
yeah.
also we're also in like a limbo period when it comes to business, like we were talking about with the economy and everything, where everything's changing. So I don't really want to be in the chop of the water while I'm trying to like and like just trying to like figure it out. I'd rather like let somebody else figure out that type of formula and do that or improve upon that in a better time, or just hire somebody on that just does that. You know what I mean? Like contract.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
I have this, and I am very much, the person. I need to see those type of results when it comes back for marketing. I need to see like, and I think you have to see results come back from marketing, but there's only so many results you're going to get back from it too. And I think that's something that people don't necessarily understand. And that was something that I kind of was like analyzing, and I kind of like understood more the more I got into like, how
Yeah.
that worked, is that you're not supposed to get 100% returns on your marketing all the time. You know what I mean?
Mm.
That's not how it works. That's not even how it works for like big companies like Coca-Cola. Like Coca-Cola runs the same ad every Christmas. We know the same ads that are gonna come. It's the Santa ad, the polar bears, and like I don't know, like that Polar Express type ad. It's the same
Hmm.
thing since I was like little. Like,
Yeah.
and it's like they spend the same amount of money or probably more every year on a commercial that they probably don't even need to run, but we know they're gonna run it. And so it's like they're not like, what's the return on that? Like, like
Yeah.
that's my point. It's like, what's the return on the Coca-Cola polar bear ad? It's more of like, what are you trying to do with it, I think. And I think people, like I said from the beginning, it's like, people tend to think of marketing as a money printing machine, not as for what it is, which is supposed to be something, I think, something that puts you in the consciousness of other people, you know. And if you're not looking at it like that, and you're looking at this thing as like, oh, I'm gonna get all these leads and I'm gonna like convert all this business, it's like, well, maybe, you know, but that's not what that's for. You know, we
Yeah.
can push that thing as hard as we can, but that's not necessarily what it's for. And I think that because like social media is free, and like things like that, that's what makes it so attractive that I'll make a TikTok and I'll make a Twitter post or whatever. I'll make these things, that for some reason it'll be magical. I'll go viral and then I'll have all this clientele or customers or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like nobody knows necessarily all the time what makes something go viral. You know what I mean? Like I
Hmm.
can like make a viral post on my personal like social media, but if you ask me like what the specific formula for like A, B, or C to go viral, I can't really tell you that. You know what I mean? And I don't think that anybody should really listen to anybody who says that they can tell them that. You know what I mean? That like if you can't like this like I don't think anybody asked like their social media manager, make me 5 viral posts by the end of the week. Like that's not how it works. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
you don't pick virality, virality picks you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I think that people are trying to like they're trying to get the cheap or quick buck through something that they're not even paying that much into in that way either. Like you get what you
Yeah.
that's a principle I like really believe in. It's like you get what you pay for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you're getting free social media, you can't be mad that the return came back like.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I actually work with this agency sometimes. I just refer to them.
Mm.
They taught me this thing that I didn't even know was a thing on Instagram. People, some pages that constantly post the same post every single time. And I always used to think, why do they do that? And I found out is because there's a setting that most people don't even know about that it'll show that video to a new person that hasn't seen it. It will not show it to the same person.
Wow.
So now your outreach is tenfold.
That's cool. That is
I,
cool.
I
Yeah.
didn't know about that, and then I'm like, oh, you see, like there is advantages. Like I think I know everything in my mind, right? But
Yeah,
like no,
yeah.
no, there's things that other people are expert
But
experts in for a
that's
reason.
exactly, see, something like that is exactly why I said that I don't necessarily, after I kind of like got it,
Yeah.
is why I
Hmm.
kind of didn't want to do it anymore. Because it's like,
Hmm.
that's something that you need somebody to know those type of things. Like,
Yeah.
not that I don't believe in social media marketing. I don't believe in social media the way people want to do it, which is like no input, no investment.
Yeah.
They
Quick
just
buck.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, quick, but yeah, I don't believe in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like if that's something that I start to invest in, then that's what I'll do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Real quick, last question for you before I have to get going. If you had a magic wand to solve any challenge or problem in your business, or even just to take over a sector in your business, what would that be?
Magic wand. Do I have to pick like a thing? Like do I have a limited amount of like
You could pick a thing or multiple.
I have to think now because like
Yeah.
I was gonna ask for a wand that gives me more than one thing. Because if you said one thing, I was gonna be like, well, a wand that does what I say.
That's a good answer.
If I had to pick a thing in my business that I could just like, my goodness, I don't know. I'm content, but I don't want to say time. I don't want to say time. Like time did come to my head, like to just
Hmm.
give me more time because I do work a lot. And maybe it would be time. Maybe it would just to give me more time. But I think that that's something that'll come. I don't know. I'm so content.
Or maybe take over something that you don't like doing.
Something I don't like doing in my business. That's tough for me because like I know I told you earlier that I don't like doing operations and stuff, but
Hmm.
I'm like because I'm like so far along in my operational journey.
Yeah.
Like if I had a magic wand that just undid it, I would feel bad. Like I would like because I would feel, like when you're like really deep into a project and then like
Hmm.
somebody just like it's like it's either gone or it's complete and like you just spent all this time and energy into
Yeah.
it. Like it would just make me feel bad. It would just make, I mean, like, I guess I guess that would make me feel better. I would really have to think about that. What was something that I would just want somebody to just automate for me? I don't know. What would be something you would wish for? Maybe it'll jog my creativity if you tell me something you like.
If it was a magic wand, I would ask to have
Your
be
deliverable.
de- my deliverables be automatic. So whatever the client asks for it to be done. Because it is a pain, but it drives to, for you to really think,
Yeah.
because you want to drive real results, right?
Why
Uh,
your deliver That's an interesting one though. Why your deliverables? Like what is such a pain about the thing you do?
you know what it is? It's I guess guaranteeing results, right? Because
Mm.
guarantees are very hard. So you have to put that extra effort to really, fulfill those guarantees. So if those deliverables were 1,000% guaranteed, then I would sell to everybody. You know what I mean? But say
Well,
there's a capacity that I have based on the deliverables.
do you feel like maybe the deliverables you're asking from yourself to deliver are, how do I put this diplomatically? No, I don't want to say impossible, but you know what I'm saying? They're too high.
Oh,
They're
too high. I don't think so. I don't think so, only for the reason that I set a realistic expectation and then I try to over deliver.
okay. Okay. Okay.
So I'm very much in over delivering, very much so, because if you want somebody to value you, you have to give more than what they expect.
Yeah, kind of.
Yes,
Well,
yes,
maybe.
yes and
Yes and
no.
no. Yes and
Yes
no.
and no.
Because I feel like if you, I get where you're coming from, where you're like, you kind of like, you've over delivered. I understand that. I get that.
Yeah.
I think for me, my thing is like, if you're over delivering, like that over delivery part has to be simple as well. Like it can't be like stressful to you too. Like if you're delivering, that's one thing. But like if you're over delivering and it's stressful to make that over delivery, then maybe we have to lower the delivery so that the over delivery looks, you know what I
Yep.
mean? That way that creates that ease for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't mean to like consult.
No, no, no. It's
But no, I don't want to overstep. But like I think that like path of least resistance would be like, because that's a big one. When you said like your deliverables, I was like, damn, like it hurt, you know?
you know what the problem is right higher for those deliverables. So that's, finding a
What
superstar that can deliver those results for you is where it's hard. Like do exactly what you're asking for. So I wonder if now I want to change my answer to the hires because we work together to come up with those deliverables, and sometimes I guess they don't meet my expectations.
they don't meet your expectations. I
Yeah,
kind of got that feeling from you when you said that, because it's like you said that you're good at delivering what it is you're supposed to deliver, right?
yeah.
You want to also over deliver, but then you're
Hmm.
having a problem over delivering because you've already set this goal. The goal has been
Hmm.
achieved, but now you want to set a like an ultra goal on top of the goal, right? And
Hmm.
you're not happy with that result, right? So it's like and then if your hires aren't meeting that goal, but you're saying that the company is meeting that goal, that means that your hires they're meeting the good goal, right? They're
Hmm.
meeting the goal, right? They're just
Yeah,
meeting your goal, your
yeah, exactly.
right? I think for that is like, do they know that this is the goal? Like the ultra goal is the goal.
They do.
They
They
do.
do.
Like
They
they're
do.
aware that like, okay, guys, like
Yep.
this is what we promised, but for every customer that we promise X, they're getting Y. They're aware of that.
They are.
Then what is the issue? Why wouldn't they like for you really on the customer end, like I see X, right? And I don't see Y.
Yeah.
But for your end, Y should just be the goal. Like Y is just the goal. It's not, there's no like wanting to meet X first, because that
Yeah.
really does give that sense of like completion. So it's like,
Hmm.
why do the hires you have now not want to like achieve Y? Why do they not want to achieve that extra goal?
It goes back to what you were saying, that maybe I just need to tone down that, just tone down that, because yeah, like I said, I'm not one of those people that just want to churn people over,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
No,
just
yeah.
try to, it's just my over expectations taking
Oh,
over.
I'm gonna see now. I'm starting to actually ask you harder questions. I'm gonna ask you just one last thing. How fluid is that extra goal? Like how set
Pretty
in stone?
fluid.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. That's the issue then. Is that this is based off of your expectation, one. So it's good that you have the expectation of wanting to over deliver. But
Mm-hmm.
because this thing is not set in stone, there's no way for anybody else besides you to meet that standard. And so that was kind of what I was saying about like, why can't they achieve Y? Why can't they achieve Y? And it's because Y isn't set in stone. Like if you don't know where you're supposed to, where the finish line is supposed to be, if I just put you on a track and say run, and you don't know where the finish line is, you're gonna run
Yeah.
tired. You're gonna
Mhm.
maybe run more than the next guy is tired, but you're gonna run
Yeah.
until you gas out. You know what I mean? And so
Hmm.
if there's not a well-defined, this is where we finish, this is where the day
Yep.
is over. Yeah, you're gonna be disappointed a lot. Yeah, because it's like yeah, you got to have that X where it's like this is where the customer is, but then you got
Hmm.
to have that whatever that barrier is, you can't move it. You
Right.
got to be like this is the company goal, this is the company standard. This is 110%, not 12, not 13. This is 110, but our 110 is our 100. And
Yeah.
when you get done with that 100, when you get done with that, then you're done, And then you can see like if you have a good hire or not. Then you can see
Yeah.
if people are achieving or not. If the the goal is kind of like that, fuck, why doesn't he? Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Need to go back to the drawing board. Right.
Things like that I love. I love that
Yeah.
those are the types of fixes that you can get into because that type of drawing board, it's like that's an easy fix. It's like
Yeah.
I offer X product. The customer thinks they're gonna get X, we're gonna give them Y every time. Systematic.
Hmm.
Boom, 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 boom. We don't
Yep.
have to move that extra goal. You know what I mean? This is our surprise box for that customer. They don't know that
Yeah.
but you know you're getting it. So if you already know this is what you're going to achieve from it, it doesn't have to move up and down. Or if you want to do less work, like you can do less work, more work, whatever. It's not about the amount of work that's involved. It's about
Yeah.
for you specifically, how do you communicate that to everybody else that this is what you want? But you got to
Yeah.
be content in your heart after that's achieved, though. That's the thing. You can't like be critical after they achieve the surprise box and then be like,
Yeah.
I wish we would have done more. Unless you're adding that more in later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then wherever you put that line, you got to make a finish line. That finish line has got to be definitive. It's got to stay. You can't be like Marvin's feeling like this today.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, Logan, I really appreciate you taking the time to jump on this. How can everyone find you?
Right now, you can find me through my website at Mennahan Consulting. It's M as in Mary. I feel like I gotta spell it out. It's like it's I M as in Mary, E as in Edward, N as in Nancy, A as in Apple, H as in Harry, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy. Menahan Consulting. I also you can find me on Threads at Logan a Fish. Um, or you could find me on LinkedIn at Logan Macon, and it's the one with Mennahan Consulting in the handle as well. But yeah, that's pretty much everywhere you can find me. My threads is a little political, so it's like if you're just trying to do business, don't go. Yeah, it's like yeah, if you just want to do business and you just want to make money, you don't really need to know what I actually think. It's just
Yeah.
yeah, just make your money, okay? It's
Yeah.
okay.
No worries. All right, Logan. Thank you so much. I really
Thank you
appreciate
so
you taking
much,
the time
Marvin.
again.
This was
Yeah.
fun. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right.